So it was really awesome actually. So I got involved through my buddy Mike, and my buddy Mike, he shot me a text, and he had already been talking with my wife Dolly about the project, and so she kind of gave me like a heads up that he might reach out to me about what they were doing. So, because I guess a few months back, Ashley had approached Mike about doing like a dance video. So Mike shoots me a text and says, "Hey man, we're thinking of doing something like this. What do you think?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let me know what I can do to help." And he said, "Yeah, I'll share with you some more details later." So I think later that day or that week, we got together at a friend's house, and he started sharing me what they had been talking about, what they wanted, how they wanted to approach it. And then they just asked for our advice, like, "Hey, what do you think about the setting? What do you think about what she's trying to convey?" And, we just gave back the feedback. And then Mike was like, "Okay, interesting." And so he took it back to Ashley. And then he hit us back and said, "Hey, she wants to do a meeting, like not a like a FaceTime, right? It was like a FaceTime, a Skype call. So we did the Skype call, and that's when she started sharing more. They sent us over the script of what she had, the ideas, like more of like an outline than a script actually. Yeah, and then so we just started sharing about that. They shared with us, and then they asked us for our feedback, what we thought, and we gave feedback on how they can possibly approach it, and what she would like to see out of it. And then just one thing led to another, and next thing I know, I'm doing the cinematography, and helping Ashley with the writing and how she wants to execute it. And it was really cool actually, because you got to see how it started with a simple dance that she did at her retreat that then became, I think, more than any of us anticipated at first, in a good way, because you started to see these other pieces that started clicking, that helped the project come visually on screen, what she was feeling internally that she was trying to express externally with the dance. So that's how we got into it at first. So it was really cool. It was really awesome.
So I think initially there was conversation about maybe shooting it at a local congregation who could loan us like a sanctuary or like one of the side rooms with like a nice wood flooring and some other things. But personally, like as a dancer, I felt like her dance needed space. Just physically, it needed space. And in addition to that, the lighting style that they were going for really required a bit more, it required height and it required depth that in the setting that they were looking at, we weren't going to get that. And so that was actually part of the conversation on how, before we even came onto the project completely, that was the conversation, was about location and lighting style and some things like that. And so for me as a dancer, I was like, we need to give her space, and we need to create the lighting style that she really wants, with the depth and that feeling that she wants. She wanted a specific feeling and a specific aesthetic on camera. And so to do that, we just needed a lot more space than we actually had.
So the reason we approached the empty chair the way that we did is because it actually was like a overall like evolution of where initially she started. So initially it started with like maybe sharing from her journal and going from her journal to showing the dance, and things like that. And we ended up going this route because we thought it would just simplify everything in a way that it wouldn't take away from the dance. And so we decided to approach it that way by just having her simply in the spot and giving her that spot and that space to express the dance, and then have the camera not break away from her. But you'll notice it's not that it's a one shot. It wasn't about. Actually, part of it was originally to try to keep it as one whole picture. But the beautiful thing is that because the dance itself, there was variations to how she was expressing it at certain points, it called for it not to be as a single shot. And so that's where you saw the beauty of collaboration and improvisation coming together, because we aimed for all these things, and then you saw how it became something else, and it actually, I felt like, built the story more, because you see the dance as, in a way, I guess, with the way that it's pieced together, that it's one continuous dance, but it can be told from so many different ways and so many things. And I think that's very human of us. We can share what we need to share depending on who we're sharing it with, in a way that is safe for us in that moment with whoever it is. So maybe you tell someone the whole picture at once. Maybe you tell someone the picture in different parts because you're not sure where they're at. But at least you're trying, again, to share what's being said. And so aesthetically speaking, the tone was all set by Ashley. She's the one that set the tone. And so we were kind of going for like, language that's already been created by others greats by us, before us, like Spielberg, with the Holocaust films, the Schindler's List and other Holocaust films, of not going full black and white, but conveying that feeling of
desaturated look.
Like a muted tone, to convey the idea. So without saying it, we're showing it through the visuals, and then her dance did the rest of the work, which was great to just capture it, which was a lot of fun. But that was the approach behind it, or one of the reasons why we approached it the way we did, because we thought it would convey visually that the feeling of the Holocaust, but staying with the dancer of her story, and then breaking it up depending on how she felt in that moment. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really awesome what Ashley did. Everything that she put out there was really good and really a lot of fun to capture on the camera itself.
Yeah, the thing with dance is you really have to know how to shoot it. You can't just go in and just not look at it and just go, unless you're just that talented of a camera guy. But I've seen a lot of people try to do that, and it like really doesn't honor the choreography the way, and the dancers the way that it's intended many times, not exclusively, but many times. And so what we wanted to do, what Boris wanted to do, and he came up with this whole shooting style, which was amazing, was getting the Ronin, and basically he was like dancing with her almost through the whole project. And so it creates this breathing in the dance, and it creates this space, and it creates a closeness, and it creates movement within the film that you would not otherwise be able to create. And so we did shoot it from different angles. We did have a couple different setups, but we really didn't want to take away from what the actual choreography was. Yeah. So it was very simple. We had one light, we had one prop, we had one dancer. And then we had one singer with one piano. And that was it for the recording. We, like Boris said, we had talked about going with like kind of a beginning scene with the journal. We do still have a beginning scene, but it's just kind of more of an introduction to get you into that emotion of what was happening at the time, that there were empty chairs. Yeah. And so that was kind of why we went with that direction, and just creating that space and that dance that the camera has between the dancer and us. And it was really powerful to see the way that the lighting and the choreography and the props and everything kind of all worked together. It was really powerful to watch that, how it all so simple still all worked together so beautifully.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. It was just seeing how it all came together from the initial seed of the idea to taking out and then ending up with what we did. And again, props to Ashley because she knew what she wanted to express, and she expressed it very well. Mm-hmm. And so honestly, it made my job easier, because all I had to do was just capture what she was sharing. Mm-hmm. And there was moments where I would cry, because it was like I can feel the rawness. And so just the hope of being able to capture that, of someone sharing their personal story, tied in with their family, tied in with the Holocaust, tied in with what happened in Poland. And again, not the story doesn't even end there. Is expressing where it's going, and so So I hope everyone feels that when they see it. And I know a picture paints 1,000 words, so there's there's probably gonna be 1,000 different opinions about that. But I'm really excited to hear see what people got out of that itself. So that's the exciting part, is just being able to see how it gets interpreted by other people depending on the filter that they're viewing it in. So it'll be really interesting to see how that turns out. Really excited.
My hope for this project is that it starts conversation, and it starts new conversation about the Holocaust, and that people who maybe aren't aware of really how damaging the Holocaust was, or maybe don't even believe that it happened, that they come to a real, honest realization that real people were murdered brutally, and children were murdered, and families and generations were lost, and in a horrible and inconceivable way, and that those things affect all of us today, not just they don't just affect the people at that time. They affect all of us, and they affect generations now. And it just makes me think of too, how many artists and creatives, we're all creatives, and how many artists and creatives were slaughtered in the Holocaust? How many children? How many people who were making a difference in the world?
Or could have made a difference.
In the world. How many of them were they're just gone? And when we can grieve as a culture, and we can really give that space for us to grieve together and start having those conversations about what really happened in each of our families, and and how we plan to move forward in a healthy way, move forward in truth and in wholeness and in vulnerability. I think that would really be my hope for this project, and just really seeing how our stories can impact one another and encouraging others to share their stories. I think that's probably the biggest thing, and I think that's Ashley's hope as well, is to really start conversation about how the Holocaust is affecting and has affected all of us.
Yeah, my hope is that so as a Gentile, a lot of times from what I hear from other people is, well, why the Jews and why them first? And it seems like, a lot of times, like even the Holocaust itself, it's like a woe is me, or I think it's in Yiddish, right? It's oy vey, right? Woe is me. That people get this idea that they're kind of ethnocentric, right? It's just about them and what they've gone through. But I think honestly, they're trying to convey to everybody that we shouldn't allow this to happen to anyone. And so my hope is that like the Holocaust remembrance locations and places like that, it's really to allow people to come to the table and pause and to see the other person as a human, to see the other person, that even if you don't agree with them, to see them as a person. And so I really hope that through this project, it will help people have the conversations, that even if we're on the opposing side of politics or how you feel about certain races, that you will come to the table and at least try to have a conversation and hear the other person. Because if you let your own hatred go unchecked, you can end up being that person on the other side doing what happened to the Jewish people in World War II. And so I really hope that it will help just build a bridge for communication. And so I really want to see that happen. I think that would be amazing. And even if it's just one or two people, I think that will be amazing. Even if it's just two people from opposing sides saying, you know what, let me hear you out and agree to disagree, but let me hear you out. Because I think it's very timely for today with what's happening that, Israel gets blamed for not really caring. And that's kind of like generalizing, like even with people of Iran. Oh, all of Iran hates Americans. That's not true. There's certain people, yes, but the people themselves, you can't put a blanket on everyone and just paint them as the enemy and go at them. So I really do hope that it helps dispel stereotypes and helps to bring people to the table to at least try to talk for understanding's sake. So therefore you can show more mercy and more care, even if it's not easy, and even if you don't agree with them, at least try to see them as a human, because that person also has a family, or someone that cares about them as much as you have a family and someone who cares about you. So that's what I hope that people get out of the project overall.